Okay, hello everyone. Hello everyone. We're just going to wait a few minutes to give our friends a chance to jump online. Hello, Rick Thorne. Hello, Maria. Hello, Jayanta. We're just going to wait another minute or two, give people an opportunity to jump online. Hello, Upasika. Hello. I'm not used to that name. I got to get used to that name. Metika. Hello, Kumu. Hello, Putrika. So we're just waiting a minute or two, giving people a chance to jump online. I know, especially for some of the people that are watching from our group in Los Angeles, might be a little difficult for them. They might just barely be getting out of work. Hello, David. So we'll wait just one more minute. We'll start at 7:33. Wait one more minute. We got 12 people watching live. I know most people watch this after the fact. I love fall weather. It's so nice and cozy and warm drinks and soups. And yeah, I don't know about you guys. Hopefully the weather's nice and cozy where you're at, where it's just chilly enough where you can get a nice cover or blanket or put on a hoodie and just feel all nice and cozy. I hope that's the case for you guys. Okay, I think we can get started now. Hello, everyone. I'm Sanathavihari Bhikkhu from Sarath Chandra Buddhist Center in North Hollywood, California. This is staying at a Sri Lankan temple here in North Hollywood, California. I'm a Mexican American monk. If you don't know me, so I want to share a practice that I've. Hello, David, Gita, and everyone else jumping on. I wanted to share a practice that I find that I found very useful, and it's a practice that comes outside of the Theravada tradition. And some of you that have heard me here on Buddhist Insights before already going to know what I'm going to teach. I'm not teaching anything new, but it's a good way to learn to relax. And this is a teaching that comes from the Japanese Zen tradition. And it's basically a body scan where you focus on relaxing, gradual relaxation, starting from the top of your head all the way down to the soles of your feet. So this works if you're sitting or laying down. You can just focus on the top of your head and slowly scan your body and actively relax, actively let go. You can even tell yourself relaxing, relaxing, letting go. So the way that this is known as the butter meditation, melting butter meditation. So you can imagine, like, if you had a stick of butter on your head. I know this is going to be kind of weird, but imagine it slowly melting, right? And sliding down the back, the sides of your head, coming down your face like a warm, gentle balm, right? Of awareness. This warm butter sliding down your face, this warm balm of awareness sliding down your face, coming down your neck, the front and the back, all around, down your shoulders, down your chest, down your arms, all the way down. Um, all the way down your body, your hips and your legs and your knees. So just imagine like a warm sense of awareness, right? A gentle sense of awareness, slowly, slowly beginning to pervade your entire body. And you want to go really slow. And you can even name the parts like eyes, cheeks, lips, jaw, neck. You want to go really slow. And if you find yourself at the bottom, then just start again at the top. And this is a relaxation uh, meditation, because I find that some of us, we get a little too tense, too effortful in our meditation. We're a little bit too hardcore, and we need to learn more to relax, because when we relax, we can find stillness. And that's really the key, to find stillness of the mind, stillness of the body. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So just find whatever regular meditative position you usually take, however that is. And you can begin by closing your eyes and withdrawing your attention from the external environment. If during this meditation you notice that you get distracted, that's fine. Just make a mental note. Got distracted, and gently bring your awareness back to the meditation. And we can begin by focusing on the top of our head, focusing all our attention on the top of our head, and slowly, slowly, slowly start moving down the body, right? Like if it was a warm stick of butter, slowly, slowly melting and dripping down our head, our shoulders, and down our entire body. And we're going to do this with our Sati, with our awareness or mindfulness, slowly, slowly, slowly. Okay, and focus on that letting go and relaxation. No worries. Abuso metico, no problem. All right, so let's go ahead and do this relaxing body scan, melting butter meditation. Let's go ahead and practice. So now that your mind is calm, body is relaxed, you can bless yourself with your calm mind by the great wisdom and compassion of the Supreme Buddha, truthfulness of his teachings, Dhamma, noble qualities of his perfect disciples, Mahasangha. May you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Sabitiyo Vivanjantu Sabberogo Vinasatu Mate Bhavantwanterayo Sukidika Yuko Bhava Bhavetu Sa Bemangelan Rakantu Sabbe Devata Sabbe Buddha Nubhavena Sabbe Dhamma Nubhavena Sabbe Sangha Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantuti. Also, through the power of these harmonious actions, may you be free from immature company, and may you always have good companions until you attain Nibbana. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satam samagemo hotu Yaveni Banapatiya. Hello again, everyone. I hope that everyone's doing well. Hello to Wang. Hello to Sud. Hello to Scott and Jevli and Markie. Hello to everyone out there. I hope that everyone's meditation went well. I know it might seem a little icky or gooey or weird to imagine sticky butter running down your body, but it can be useful for some people. I hope that for some of you it was useful. So last week I put it out there that if there was any questions or any topics that any of you would like for me to cover, that I would do that. And I did receive some messages. And one of those messages was asking me to talk about uh, Sati and Sati. So before I start my Dhamma talk today on Sati and Sati, I'm going to pay my respects to the Buddha. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. So for those of us that are practicing the Dhamma, those of us working on avoiding bad, doing good, and purifying the mind, whose goal is liberation, nibbana, the highest happiness, it is very important for us to understand the difference between sammasati, which I'll be calling wholesome mindfulness or wholesome awareness, and miccha, incorrect awareness or mindfulness. It's very important. Even for those of us that are out there listening, for those of you who may not be that interested in, Buddhism, you're Buddhist adjacent, or you might just be interested in mindfulness, awareness, cultivating it on its own. There is skillful ways of teaching and sharing and incorporating sati into our everyday lives. And I think that a lot of these questions are very, very important due to how mindfulness is everywhere nowadays, right? In the professional world, in the clinical world, in schools. My nephew, for the last couple of years, they teach him, like a form of breathing mindfulness, breathing awareness in his class, a couple of days out of the week. So it's in academia, education, corporate world, professional world, clinical world. It's everywhere. In some of the ways that it's being offered, or how it's being offered, or what's asked in return for the teaching may not be so samma, wholesome. So I want to focus on these two dimensions of it. One, I'll call the internal, I guess, or the meditative, or the more, early Buddhist perspective on sammasati, and a more modern social perspective on sammasati also. So in order to do this, we need to know what the Buddha said. What is sammasati? And we're so lucky that, the Buddha well-defined everything, and he really laid everything out for us in the suttas. So I just want to share with you what the Buddha says. So in the Digha Nikaya, those are the long discourses, sutta number 22, if we're using the Bhikkhu Bodhi version. It says, and what is right mindfulness, right? Sammasati. It is when a mendicant meditates by observing an aspect of the body, keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desire and aversion for the world. They meditate observing an aspect of feelings, keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desires and aversion for the world. They meditate observing an aspect of the mind, keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desires and aversion for the world. They meditate observing an aspect of principles, keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desire and aversion for the world. This is called right mindfulness, sammasati. What is this? What is this, right? So here the Buddha tells us that sammasati is kaya nupassana, observing the body, vedana nupassana, observing feelings, means pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, not to be confused with emotions. Observing the mind, chitta nupassana, and observing phenomena or thoughts, Dhamma nupassana. What do we call these things when they're together? What is this method? It's called satipatthana, the practice of satipatthana. So sammasati means satipatthana, and satipatthana has 4 facets to the practice. This is what the Buddha meant by right mindfulness. But right mindfulness doesn't stand on its own, right? And I think here going to like more of a modern social, analysis or critique, we can see how mindfulness, even if it's right mindfulness, taken out of, its traditional understanding, may not, give us right mindfulness as hard as we try to make it so. So there's another sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Tens, Sutta 121, where the Buddha says this: Mendicants, the dawn is the forerunner and precursor of the sunrise. In the same way, right view is the forerunner and precursor of skillful qualities. Right view gives rise to right thought. Right thought gives rise to right speech. Right speech gives rise to right action. Right action gives rise to right livelihood. Right livelihood gives rise to right effort. Right effort gives rise to right mindfulness. Right mindfulness gives rise to right immersion. Right immersion gives rise to right knowledge. And right knowledge gives rise to right freedom. So this is the Noble Tenfold Path. Right, usually we talk about the Eightfold, but there's the Tenfold, which apply to those who have gained some sort of knowledge, some level of awakening. Sotapanna all the way to Arahant are the ones who have got those 2 last steps. So in order to have right mindfulness or wholesome awareness, sammasati, we need right effort, sammavayama. Sammasati depends on sammavayama, and sammavayama depends on samma ajiva, and samma ajiva depends on samma kamanta, and all the way down to sammaditthi, right? So within, the Buddhist context, it's not possible to have sammasati without the previous factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. I know talks about 10, but let's focus on 8 today, without the Eightfold Path. Right? They're interdependent. They depend on each other. In my own experience, I've noticed that the ethical domain, right, the moral domain, when we talk about right speech, right action, and right livelihood, are highly crucial and fundamental basis for the development of sammasati. Without morals, without ethics, without right speech, right action, right livelihood, very difficult to practice sammasati. I also found a very interesting hmm, explanation, or some explanation by um Bhante Analayo. He wrote a book, a very popular book called Sati, and he's written so many books on mindfulness and Satipatthana since then. And I just want to share a quote from him when he talks about, samasati. And he starts off like this in his book Satipatthana when he gets to the section of sati. Coming back to right mindfulness as a factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, it is noteworthy that the term sati, mindfulness, is repeated within the definition of right mindfulness, samasati. This repetition is not merely accidental, but rather points to a qualitative distinction between right mindfulness, samasati, as a path factor, and mindfulness as a general mental factor. In fact, numerous discourses, suttas, mention wrong mindfulness, micchasati, which suggests that certain forms of sati can be quite different from right mindfulness, samasati. So sati on its own is a mental factor, a mental state, right? A mental quality. And sammasati is that quality, that aspect being used in a skillful or wholesome way. At least from the perspective of the suttas, uh, sati is sort of like a neutral state. It can be used for unskillful things, akusala, and it can be used for skillful things, kusala. It's not inherently uh, skillful. It reminds me of a story from Ajahn Brahm. I love this example he gives about mindfulness, how mindfulness is really neutral, and we need more than mindfulness in this world. He talks about a guard, a guard to a house, and the owner of the house tells the guard, "Please take care of my house when I'm on vacation. I want you to be real mindful. I want you to be super mindful of everything that happens when I'm gone." And the guard says, "Okay, ma'am, I'll be mindful at all times, 24/7." So then, sometime later, the owner of the house, the lady, shows back up and comes into the house and notice that it's been ravaged and so many things are missing. And she's like, "Oh, I was robbed. Someone broke in and must have taken all my things." And she comes up to the guard and says, "Hey, didn't I tell you to be mindful? Look what happened. They stole everything, and I told you to be mindful. What were you doing?" And he says, "Ma'am, I was mindful. I was mindful when they went in. I was mindful when they got the jewelry. I was mindful when they took out the jewelry and they walked out. I was mindful when they picked up the TV. I was mindful when they picked up the TV and they took it out." Right? So you can see that kind of like um, how mindfulness is a neutral state. It's just an ability to, you know, be intentionally aware, right? Consciously aware of what's happening, being mindful of what's happening. So here we can kind of see this kind of thing of how sati as a mental state or quality or activity or function is pretty neutral. It can be used for good or bad. Which kind of brings me to this more social critique or analysis of modern day mindfulness. We see all kinds of crazy articles on the internet pop out about uh, the so-called benefits of mindfulness and what mindfulness is being used and who it's being used by and for what purpose it's being used by and how much you need to pay to get access to it or to become a certified teacher or what kind of problems it's trying to tackle. And here we can see where sati in itself can be used skillfully or unskillfully. And it can become a micha sati. So there was this very This interesting study, this article called "The Light and the Dark of Mindful Social Capital: Right Mindfulness and Social Capital Development" by Vu Mai Chin. I think she started off this thing writing her dissertation, and then she actually made it into she published it after she finished her dissertation. This was like her PhD project. So basically, what she did is like she studied the implementation of mindfulness into big organizations, corporations, and seeing how it works there. And she has some very interesting things to say. She says this was like some of the things that she found in her study. In the case of westernized mindfulness, multinational companies such as Google, General Mills, Procter and Gamble, Monsanto, and the US Army have all brought mindfulness into the workspace. The rising application of mindfulness practices in organizations has been characterized as a quick fix mcmindfulness program. Purser and Loyal have defined Western mindfulness as mcmindfulness, a decontextualization of mindfulness from its original liberative and transformative purpose as foundation in social ethics, rather than applying mindfulness skillfully as a means to awaken individuals and organizations from unwholesome roots of greed, ill will, and delusion. It is often recast into a banal therapeutic self-help technique. Vu identified three reasons for the mindfulness phenomenon. First, research and the application of mindfulness practices are mainly based on attention enhancement, moment awareness, stress reduction, present-centered awareness, which is far from the Buddhist right mindfulness tradition, based on the recollection of both present and past experiences. Second, mindfulness has been reduced to its utility to serve organizational purposes, rather than embracing its ethical and longitudinal holistic practice that promote intellectual wisdom and physical concentration. Third, mindfulness tends to be a marketable technique for organizations neglecting its diversity and tradition. Mindfulness in organizations runs the risk of being decontextualized, ignoring the differences and transferring individual mindfulness to the organizational level. As a result, according to Glump, mindfulness-based interventions in the workplace tend to emphasize instrumentality rather than linking mindfulness to social capital and pro-social behavior. Thus, the instrumentalization of mindfulness often subsumes its authenticity under the economic rationale of the organization. A lot of fancy things there, but basically this is what it's saying. I found a kind of like shorter version of it in an article, in another article, which led me to this one, to the original one. It says the study found that organizational mindfulness may not actually help employees resolve issues they come up against in the workplace. It suggests it instead little more than a pressure releasing technique for employees to deal with stress caused by the company itself, and so little more than a quick fix effect. It found that the standardized corporate application of a personal technique renders corporate mindfulness meaningless and open to exploitation by organizations looking to further their own interest, such as by using it to enhance sales of profitability. And then there's another amazing article that I want to share with you, just a little piece, called Mindfulness in Western Context Perpetuates Oppressive Realities for Minority Cultures, the Consequences of Cultural Appropriation. And I just want to share the conclusion and remarks from this article. It says, mindfulness, if used for individualistic purposes, is a culturally appropriated practice that perpetuates oppression and unequal cultural power dynamics. The cultural appropriation of mindfulness only serves to commodify the practices for economic gain and disrespectfully omits the meaningful cultural knowledge that situates mindfulness as a way of life for Buddhist cultures. To paraphrase Siegel, educational programs that are entrenched in the ethical and moral endeavors of mindfulness practices, which include collective values, have the potential to reinstate the affective dimension of education that has been lost. Mindfulness, if used in a way that directly acknowledges and teaches Buddhist values and ontology in its practices combats the reductionist and oppressive consequences of appropriation by reinstating mindfulness in the hands of Buddhist culture and practitioners. Alternatively, as Grossman and Van Dam suggest, to preserve the integrity and richness of Buddhist understanding of mindfulness. The qualities and practices distinguished as mindfulness should be defined as what they actually represent. To effectively implement mindfulness to benefit from long-term and holistically transformative practices, it must be contextualized, situated, and not misappropriated for individualistic purposes. Very interesting, right? So, in the beginning, there's this other article called The Mindfulness Hype that came out in 2015. And there they even mentioned how, one of the critiques at that time was that how mindfulness was being taught to like snipers, to be better shooters. So talk about no ethical concerns about teaching mindfulness, right? That's definitely a Sati because it's not dependent on Sama Kamanta and Sama Ajiva. It's actually the opposite of Sama Kamanta and Sama Ajiva, right action and right livelihood. So therefore, you can't have Samasati in those conditions. And Sati is being used in a way which is akusala, leading to pain and suffering. Yeah, well, now I want to see if there's any comments or questions. I see a couple of comments here. Manal, did I hear mcmindfulness? Good one. Yeah, there's a book someone wrote. There was an article first a couple years ago, and now there's a book actually called mcmindfulness, and it's like kind of like a Ronald McDonald Buddha on the cover. It's pretty funny. Samanera Metico. Yes, Abu, so I got to get used to your name. Thank you for the great discussion on this topic. Do you think that the Brahma Viharas method would be a greater benefit practice for the general public rather than mindfulness? Yes, because Brahma Viharas are inherently an ethical practice, right? Like it's built in there. May all beings be well. May all beings be free from suffering, compassion, right? So I've seen a shift. There's this other, I think they call it like third generation cognitive therapies, and one of them is called compassion focused therapy. And there's other sorts of compassion based therapies where there is more emphasis on the way you live your life and ethics and morals. And I think that it's going in the right direction, at least it's available out there. So I think definitely this kind of like how even Ajahn Brahm, going back to Ajahn Brahm talking about kindfulness, right? He even wrote a book called Kindfulness. And then Bhante Saranapala in Canada, more kindful Canada, right? So I think we can redirect this mindful movement and bring in back the ethical domain, the right speech, right livelihood, right actions. But then we'll still be missing, samaditi, which hopefully at some point later we can get out there, the mainstream, like the Four Noble Truths and impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and anatta, like that. If we can get samaditi out there also, I think it would be of great benefit. But yes, Avuso, I do think that Brahma Viharas would probably be a better route. Sud says, Dear Bhante, how does one balance attachment to worldly goals such as friend trying to finish their PhD dissertation versus letting go and setting things? So it's good to have goals. I mean, we have the goal of Nibbana. We have the goal of becoming a stream mentor. We have the goal of having a good rebirth. I mean, Buddhists have a lot of goals. And even like these goals, like having a good rebirth is a worldly goal because it's not being any level of awakening. You're not a stream mentor, right? We generate good karma, right? For future use. That's also goal orientated. You want a happier future you. The thing is that to understand that all things are unstable, right? There's no security in this world. So when we set goals, we also have to allow ourselves and entertain the possibility that those goals may not be achieved, or that they may be achieved in different way, or that it may take longer to achieve them, right? Um, so we have to have a realistic view instead of an absolutist view, right? Like it has to happen this way and no other way. There's more ways for things not to happen that way than there is for things to happen one way. That's just like the rule of probability. So we have to have a realistic worldview and understand these, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And if you understand those three things, you'll be able to set goals and not be attached to them. But stop. One of the main things that helps is not to identify with these things that you're, you know, uh, trying to reach. They'll make it part of your identity. Once you start making once you start making something part of your identity, then it's very difficult to let go of it, right? So instead of using an iPhone, you say like, oh, I don't know, I'm an iPhone user, and everything's Apple, and all I buy is Apple products, right? So then what happens if you can't get an Apple product or something? People start talking bad about Apple products. Then you get upset, right? And you start swearing at all the Android users and stuff like that. You get upset. So that only happens because you made Apple part of your identity instead of just being able to use the tool without attaching yourself to it. So same thing with the PhD. The PhD is a means to a possible better life, but the goal is to have a better life, not just the means themselves. You shouldn't identify yourself with PhD. You should identify yourself with how that reaching that goal is going to help your parents, and how it can help you, and how it can lead to more skillful states in the future. So I think that's the way I would go about it. Just we can have goals, but just be very realistic about how that might unfold. No, we need worldly goals, right? Like I want to eat today, I want to eat tomorrow. Like if we don't have these worldly goals, like eating, sleeping, and taking care of ourselves and having a shelter, I mean, we won't survive to reach any of the any of the levels of awakening. So, you know, these worldly goals are necessary to an extent, but not sufficient. So we have to remember that. A lot of thank you, thank you, thank you, thank yous, thank yous. I think people are leaving, right? Usually, when everyone says thank you, it means it's time to go. I guess I have time for one more question or comment if anyone has a question or a comment before we finish. I think everyone's good, right? I'll give couple more seconds. Couple more seconds. Oh yeah, so I guess I'll just talk about next week. Next week, unfortunately, I will not be joining all of you. I will be in Vietnam. But the following week after that, I will return on the 24th. On the 24th, Thanksgiving? Yeah, I think I'll be doing another meditation and Dhamma talk, and then December 1st, and then that December 1st will be my last scheduled talk for all the Thursdays while Bhante and Aya are in Italy. Dear Bhante, one last question. How does metta relate to mindfulness? So in order to properly practice the cultivation of metta, the mental factor or quality of mindfulness, the state of sati has to be present. Because if not, your attention will just be everywhere else. And even if you look at the Karaniya Metta Sutta, if you look at the end, it says one who is established in this sati. Like it says that you have to be established in sati to practice metta. If you look at the Karaniya Metta Sutta, loving kindness sutta, right there. So it's in that sutta. It's telling us that we need sati to practice metta, and also in order to, be aware, be mindful of anything, even being mindful that we're practicing metta. In order to practice metta, we need to be mindful that we're practicing metta. If not, it's just gonna be like everything else. So I would say that, developing mindfulness is supportive and actually kind of like kind of necessary even to actually be properly practicing metta or any of the Brahma Viharas. It'll be present there, because instead of practicing loving kindness, you'll start doing everything else, right? There's a sutta actually where the Buddha does talk about how mindfulness. Uh, Let me look it up real quick because I did a Spanish talk on it. I'll tell you exactly what it is, and then we'll finish with that. Basically, the monks went to the Wanderers Park, and some other ascetics told them, we practice Brahma Viharas, you practice Brahma Viharas. Well, what's the difference? Why do you Buddhist monks think you're so cool, huh? And and then the monks go back to the Buddha, and they ask the Buddha, they practice loving kindness, we practice loving kindness. What's the difference? And the Buddha says, well, we practice the Brahma Viharas with the 7 factors of awakening. That's the difference. I don't know. I can't find it. Just give me another second, and I'll give you the sutta right now. My internet's a little slow. Let's see. Almost there. Almost there. It's one of my older videos. Okay, here we go. Let me see what it's called. Metta Sahagata Sutta. Yeah, Metta Sahagata Sutta. Yeah, Metta Sahagata Sutta. Yeah, here we go. Oh, here we go. It's Samyutta Nikaya 4654. Samyutta Nikaya 4654. I'll put it right here in the chat as we finish right now. Then I'll give you another few seconds for you to get it, and then we'll finish for today because I don't want to go over our time. I think it's only supposed to be 1 hour. Yeah, so Sud, you can get that sutta, go look at it, Samyutta Nikaya 4654, and then also look at the Karaniya Metta Sutta, and you'll see how Sati is related to Metta and the Brahma Viharas. Okay, everyone, I hope that you have a good night. I hope that you had a good time. Once again, if you have any topics that you would like for me to talk about, go ahead and send them to my email, casadebhavana at gmail.com, or send me a message on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you can get a hold of me. I check all my different inboxes, and I'll try to explain whatever topic you want me to talk about. Some of them might be very deep. I might have to do some more research before I speak about it. So it might be sometime I'll let you know. I'll be like, oh, give me a week or two. I might not be able to talk about it next week. So yeah, just go ahead. And then my next talk will be on the 24th. Until then, may you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Sukhi Hotu. Wish you all the best.